Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mike, and I am your host. This is the Leadership Toolkit. I am excited to bring this to you today. As you know, we get together every Wednesday afternoon at 12:05 Mountain Time, 2:05 Eastern Time, and I have just organic, collaborative conversations with leaders from many different industries, many different facets of industry, so that they can bring their experience to you. They bring their successes. We sometimes will talk about failures. We just go where the conversation takes us so that we can help you grow as a leader, as a manager, as a business person, maybe an entrepreneur, and grow yourself and certainly your team and the people around you. So I'm excited to bring to you today a very awesome guest, Mark Weiss, who I've been connected to for a long time on social media. We were sitting chatting. Time got away from me just having a conversation with him. He's a 30 plus year sales veteran. He's sold everything from catalogs to food service. He sells luxury automobiles. He's been avid learner for leadership and management. And so I'm excited to have a conversation with him today. Mark, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, Mike, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would do me a favor, and we'll just spend, 2, 3 minutes, share with everybody sort of who you are, what your background is, maybe how they can contact you. And then let's get into jamming about sales and leadership and self-management. That was something you brought up that I'd love to get into, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been in the car business for the past, since 1998, but I've been in sales pretty much all my life. And I'm just fascinated by the science and the psychology of sales and selling. So that's really fuels me. But automobiles I've been in since, like I said, 98. And I've done everything from GSM, internet sales manager, new car, used car. So done it all, and really love the car business and just the dynamics of it. And can't wait to dive in and really get into some stuff with you today. You can reach me, Mark Weiss Guy at gmail.com, or LinkedIn, Mark Weiss, your luxury car guy.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me today. Let's dive right in, because one of the questions you kind of honed in on a little bit, and for anybody that is watching, do me a favor. If you know somebody that could gain some insight from one of these leadership podcast shows, make sure you share the show. We're on YouTube and Spotify are the two big platforms for me. Throw some thumbs up on there, and let's get into it. So one of the things Mark brought up, and we were having a conversation a little bit on, is just kind of the current state of affairs, let's say. And the question directly that came up is, Mark, how do you keep yourself motivated during times of uncertainty when things aren't linear and going the way that you just want them to? What are some things that you can do to help cut through all of that and continue to motivate yourself and your peers?
Man, that's it's just an awesome question, especially from the sales dynamic. Keeping yourself positive, keeping yourself motivated. And I always like to say, as a salesperson, as a top producer, especially, you don't want to go downline, right? You always want to kind of talk to other people that are at your level, kind of done what you've done, or above, your mentors. And it's so important to have a mentor. And for me, in times of uncertainty, it's, there's so many things. I try to keep abreast of, the current market situations, what's affecting the market, what's driving the market, those things. And then I reach out to my peers, the guys that I know have done what I've done, and say, hey, how are you coping with this? What is it that you're doing that maybe I'm not doing, and vice versa? And we kind of bounce those ideas off of one another, and kind of make sure that we stay connected during those times, so that we don't kind of get down or get into a slump. And I can't illustrate enough how important it is to have a mentor, a guy or a gal, that has implemented wisdom, and somebody that you look up to and admire, and who has accomplished a lot of things, and someone that you kind of want to be like.
Sure.
It's so important.
Well, I think you brought up a few great things, and this has come up a lot on the show, is the importance of having a mentor. And I think especially when
Absolutely.
people are moving into either a new role at work, or they're moving into leadership, or they're moving into management, we put these constraints on ourselves, this unseen set of bars that says, oh, well, I have to know everything now, right? I made it to this role wherever that I'm at. And it's really, really valuable to have somebody that you're sort of firing up, as you said, to be able to ask questions. And that
Absolutely.
comes
And a
up a lot.
mentor, yeah, a mentor is actually going to be that guy he's going to tell you what you need, he's not just going to give you fluff. I mean, it's going to be direct, it's going to be unfiltered, and he's going to tell you what you really need to hear, and not just, pacify you, where maybe you might get some other, lesser type of information from others. But yeah, that mentor is really going to give it to you straight.
I think you bring up a good, the line that comes to mind when you say that is, especially for a good mentor is going to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. And I think
Exactly.
that's, you're spot on. The other couple of things that you said here is making sure to stay connected. Like, there's so much value in keeping the connection with people, especially, like, we have this illusion of connection, don't we, Mark? Like, on social media, we're all connected on Facebook. You and I've been connected for how many years, right?
Long
But
time.
yeah, a long time. But at the same time, there's this disconnect with real human connection and somebody that you can lean into and lean on and ask questions. And so I think that was a good point that you brought up. And then the third thing that I heard you say, and I always recap a little bit, so if people are taking notes as they listen, was and ask this question. So folks, as you're listening to this, because I don't know if you caught it, Mark said this at the very beginning, is when he's staying connected with those people, when he's asking people for advice, he's simply asking this question: what are you doing? What are you doing to stay motivated? How are you
Yeah.
approaching this? And one thing that comes with that is that takes you bruising your ego a little bit. It takes you acknowledging that maybe you don't have all the answers, right?
Oh, absolutely. As especially in a sales context, as a salesperson,
Mm-hmm.
everything that I am as a salesperson comes from all of the other salespeople that I have encountered over the years. And I embody all of that. I've taken something from every one of them, right? And they're all
Sure.
in my soul, so to speak, and I embody all of those things. I didn't just come up with it. I took from here, I took from there. I saw what worked, I took it, I made it mine, and that's how my style and how my techniques and abilities have evolved.
No, and I think that's really good. I've heard it said, I wish I remember who said this, but it was a car connection I had years ago, and he said similar, just to edify what you're saying. He said, I use the shopping cart effect to learning. And he says, what
Oh
that
yeah.
is you got all these people that are offering up all the things. And you may not need that thing off of the shelf right now, but take it and put it in the shopping cart, right? And then just like you're saying, because at some point, like, you go to check out and you've got all this stuff in your shopping cart, all the positives and the benefits and the good characteristics. So let me ask you, when you are looking for people to surround yourself with, because you said, hey, I embody all these things, what are 3 or 4 characteristics of people that you want in that circle? Like, we've all heard the circle of 5, right? We are the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So what are some of the characteristics, 3, 4, 5 of them, that you look for and say, yep, I want you in my circle?
I can't wait to spit it out, because I know exactly what I want to say. So obviously, the circle of 5, where you're going to be in the next 5 years is going to be dependent on 2 things: the people that you hang out with and that you're connected with, and the books that you read. That's really an important one, right?
That's
But
good.
the other one for me, the big one, is, and this is what I call it. It's being transformational versus transactional. So often in life, we go through every day and we're just transactional. We're just interacting with another person just to complete the transaction. I want to take it to the next level, and I want to be surrounded by people who take it to the next level by being transformational. So let me just illustrate.
Okay.
So let's just say in the normal context of selling, there are salespeople out there that are in it just for the transactional, the one-time transaction, the quick dollar, right? They don't care about repeat and referral business. They don't care about developing relationships or anything like that. They just want the dollar. They just want the money. And that's okay, right? Because that's life. But that's not going to get you to the next level. I want to be a next level guy. So I want to be transformational. Transformational is taking that customer and transforming them from the transactional relationship to a transformational relationship where I'm now invested in what they're doing. I'm interested in their families. I'm interested in things that they've got going on. They're interested in me. I've got things going on that relate to them, and we connect and we stay in touch. And I sell them future cars. I sell their family cars, and so on and so forth. So, it's how you show up. Transformational versus transactional. Transformational, you're going to be 100% real, 100% authentic with everybody that you come in contact with. Everybody knows who you are and what they're going to get when they deal with you. And they're not going to make a move in any type of industry, whatever it might be, until they talk to you first or have their friends or family talk to you first. So that's a big one for me, transformational versus transactional.
That's good. So what are some things, I mean, some other things that I heard you say there, just as far as characteristics, like transformational, you said they got to be real and authentic. You got to know what you get, like face value, right?
Absolutely. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Sure. And
I just can't emphasize that enough. It's opened so many doors for me, and it's created so many opportunities for me. It's closed business for me. Literally, I mean, I can walk into a room, somebody else has been, trying to sell this particular individual or family, whatever product it is, and just hammering, and they're not getting anywhere. I can walk into a room and not even talk about the product, just sit and spend 15, 20 minutes just to get to know them as people.
Sure.
Right. And then finally, 15, 20 minutes later, it's like, okay, what were we doing? What were we talking about? Well, we were trying to buy this car for our granddaughter. Okay, great. Well, what's it going to take? Well, nobody really asked us if we wanted to. I'm like, okay, do you want to? Yeah, we'll buy it. So it's just getting to know people.
No, that's good. And sorry, sometimes it takes me a moment to respond because I always take notes. I learn as much from my guests, and there's just so much good stuff. Because one of the things, and I don't know which one to go with here, so I'm going to dive in on this one. You said
Sure.
It's important to show people that you care, and I think that's a really valid. That's how you move from transaction to transformation, right? Is showing that you have a real and genuine human connection.
Yes.
And I like asking for lists because I like trying to build stuff up if people are taking notes and so forth. What are some things that you can do as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor, as somebody that is interacting and connecting with somebody? What are a few actionable items that somebody could do with somebody else to show that they genuinely care about them?
One of the first things that comes to mind is yes and versus yes but. I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's something that I learned back in college in a theater class, in an improv exercise to continue the scene, to get the scene going, and to keep it flowing. And it works in my line of work as well. It works with just everyday people. It works in my relationships. Yes and. So yes but puts a break. It stops the flow, right? It just says that yes but your idea, okay, that it's just not worthy. It's not worth it. Yes but, and it stops the flow. But if I say yes and, that it's accepting. I accept what they're saying. I accept the idea, and I add to it. I'm adding to it, and therefore, you would be amazed at how people respond to yes and, because they look at you and they're like, this guy's not arguing with me. He's not putting up a fight. He's actually agreeing with me, encouraging me, and actually adding some ideas to what I'm saying. This is, they're not used to it. It's just such a turnaround. It's amazing. it has really opened a lot of doors for me.
That's very good. And I have heard that said in different forums before. I may share on that in just a moment. So what would another way, maybe one or two additional ways to show that you care? Because I picked up on one, but I want to share it after you're done talking. I picked up on one that you maybe went unspoken that I think is pretty awesome. What are some other ways that you can show somebody that you genuinely care about them and their success?
I would say it is support their wins, applaud their wins publicly in front of other people. It's so huge because there's so many haters out there, especially when you're being successful consistently over and over and over again. People just start to roll their eyes and go, oh no, not again. He won another Salesperson of the Year award. This guy's making me look bad. His success is making me look bad.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I want other people to win. I want the guys around me to win. It only strengthens me. It only strengthens the environment that I work in if everybody is aspiring to be the best that they can be, because
Absolutely.
then you're only as strong as the weakest link, right?
Absolutely.
And so I would say support and applaud the wins of those around you.
Those are both phenomenal. And here's one of the things that I picked up on, and this could go unspoken, but because I'm hearing you sort of say this without saying it, I'm going to bring it up. Again, for anyone jotting stuff down, yes and versus yes but, that's really good. Applaud their wins, make sure to support them. And then here's the one that I heard is, to do any of those things, you have to genuinely listen. You can't be thinking of what your response is here, right? Just like as you and I are talking here. Sometimes I may throw you a curveball. That happens from show to show sometimes. But the only way, and that's one of the things that I do where I'm listening and I take notes and so forth. That's one of the only ways that you can be a really good transformational leader, and to support somebody like that is you got to listen to what they say. So if you're going to add on to it, like the yes and, you have to listen to them, right?
Absolutely. And we call it active listening in sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's active listening. So I'm listening and I'm putting it back into play as I'm listening. You might call it paraphrasing, you might call it repeating back, whatever, but I'm used to hearing it as active listening. I'm engaged, I'm listening, I'm hearing what they're saying, and I'm applying it as we go.
Right. Absolutely. And I had somebody coach me through that one time, and it was actually painful to hear it because they looked at me and I was so worried about what my next response was going to be often that,
right.
And they said to me directly, they said, look, if you're so worried about your response, you can't possibly be hearing and processing what I have to say. So just take a moment, listen fully, and it's okay to pause for 3 to 5 seconds to then formulate a response based on the whole message rather than just the first part of the message that you chose to listen to. So I thought that was very powerful.
That is powerful. That's great advice.
The other thing, I'll share a little story on yes and versus yes but, because I think this is fun and you'll pick up on this right away. I remember when I was learning about, just communication styles, and they were talking, hey, make sure you use and, because like you said, it's active and it adds on, it participates. When you use but, it almost always cancels the prior statement, just
Absolutely.
as you said. And so I remember when I was being taught on this, someone sharing this little tidbit of information. He says, hey, it's like you're being, and this was early on in my career. He says, it's like when I'm setting you up with a new date, and I say, oh, hey, here's this new date, and they have a great personality, right? Like that, hey, that's a bonus, right? Here's this person, they look great and they've got a great career and they have a great personality. And versus, hey, they look good and they've got a good career, but most of all, they have a great personality. You pause and go, well, wait a minute, what happened to the first two? So it's kind of humorous.
Yeah, that's good.
So let me ask you, how do you did you have something you wanted to bring up?
Well, no, I was just going to connect it to NLP.
Yes,
vocabulary is so huge, right? So yes and versus yes but, things that just really subtle tweaks in your vocab, right, in your vocabulary, that can really be transformational or altering in the way people respond.
Can we jump into that for just a minute? Because if somebody is
Sure.
not familiar, both you and I certainly know and are familiar with NLP, but if somebody may be listening to this podcast and they heard that acronym for the first time, what is NLP
Yeah. So NLP
in a
stands for
nutshell?
Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Neuro being, our nervous system, brain, body, mind, linguistic, obviously language, and programming, the way our brain processes those things. And yeah, so it can be it's a very powerful tool, and incorporated into sales. I know a lot of people use it in therapy and therapeutic situations. And only recently, probably within the last maybe 2 decades, has it really kind of entered into the sales aspect of things. So I'm pretty excited to use a lot of advanced NLP techniques in sales.
I agree with you. I first started learning about NLP probably close to 20 years ago now. It's one of those things that came up, and I have it around here somewhere. You'd be familiar with this, but Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who wrote the original NLP manual, is called
Right,
Frogs
the
and
guys that
Princes.
started it.
And they were the guys who started it. I found a copy on eBay back in, I don't know, probably 2000 something, right? I don't want to misspeak and say a wrong year, but it was early 2000s, 2007, 2008 maybe. Found a copy of it. I think it's from the 70s, and really started studying it. And it is very powerful, not just how we talk to and engage with others, but how we talk to and engage with ourselves, right? What we say to ourselves.
Especially, absolutely. Daily affirmations are, such a huge part of rewiring and reprogramming your mindset. It's huge.
So one of the things, while we're talking about programming and encouragement and programming ourselves and so forth, one question I do that I wanted to get to, that I wanted to ask you, because you have been in many leadership roles and management roles, and you're very much a frontline peer-to-peer business person still right now. And how do you, as either a lateral person with somebody or somebody that's in a management and leadership role, how do you encourage people and recognize their achievements? What do you think is a good way when somebody, because you brought that up earlier and you said, hey, to show people you care, applaud their wins. What are some specifics maybe that people can do to applaud someone's, I mean, hugs and high fives are nice, but what are some other suggestions you would have?
It's recognition, right? Emails, you can, especially in a company format or setting, sending emails to supervisors, managers, making sure that those people are getting recognized to their superiors or their supervisors. A lot of times that goes unnoticed. You might notice it, and that's great, and you acknowledge that individual, but their supervisor and their department doesn't know about it. So I make sure that, if it's a detailer or a service, I make sure that the service manager hears about it, the detail manager hears about it. I make sure that everybody hears about it, so that it's getting more traction, and it just goes beyond the individual.
Absolutely. And I think, accolades and recognition are very powerful. I think oftentimes, especially because as you know, I have a sales background, and it's one of those things we start to think the moment we say, well, it's recognition, from a sales mindset, often we look and go, well, does that mean that it's got to be, additional cash? And it can be, but a conversation and a coffee go a long way, to acknowledge somebody's good deeds. And I said, it a little tongue in cheek.
I can't tell you, I've been multiple salesperson of the year award winner many times. One year I brought in a food truck, and paid and just brought in and said, hey, to the dealership and all the employees, this is for you. It's on me. It's it's your reward for everything that you did to help me along and to help me get this award, because without any of you guys, I wouldn't been able to do it. And I recognize that. I recognize that it's a detailer getting my car, in front of, 5, 6 other cars and getting the customer out. It's a service technician, or I bring my car in and I get it up on a lift and circumvent, maybe some paperwork and, just little things, and just make sure that people get recognized, because, you have to kind of step out of bounds a little bit in order to do it. And there's been times too when I've received cash bonuses as a salesperson of the year, and I've shared that with people. I'll write out a note, a handwritten note, and I put a $20 bill in there and send it out to all the people that I felt helped me. And it basically says, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. And here's a piece of, not only did I win this, but you won it as well. And here's a piece of it.
Absolutely. So while we're talking here, I put up on the screen again, if anybody's tuned into the audio podcast and you're gaining some value out of what Mark is sharing. Because for me, I love it when we're talking on that lateral level, because there's so much that you can lead and you can grow people from where you're at. I think so often people assume, well, I got to have this one title, and so that's what's going to get you to the next level. And that's not. It's all about action. It's all about attitude. It's all about how you carry yourself starting from where you are. So
absolutely, you don't have to be the leader to lead.
Absolutely. Leadership sometimes it's a title, but sometimes it's a characteristic, and it's a characteristic that people really can benefit from. So
no, that's a great point. My military background, there's a lot, there's a lot of guys that have the title manager that I wouldn't follow into a foxhole or any type of, precarious situation just because they have the title manager. So you're right. It's a characteristic. It's a trait. A lot of times you don't have to have the title behind it in order to be an effective leader. Sometimes the most effective leaders are just regular Joes.
One of the things that I've found in my career is the most effective leadership tactic is just taking action. Like, you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do something. I want to hone in on something that you said, and without naming names, because you said, hey, there's some people that they had the title, but I wouldn't follow them. Why? What are 3, 4, 5 characteristics that you would classify as either leadership weaknesses or just sucky human behavior?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, right? But first and foremost, if you're most of them are the kind of people that it's do as I say, not as I do, right? You've got to lead by example. I have a hard time following someone that doesn't follow their own advice, that doesn't do the things that they want you to do or tell you to do, or have never done the things that they're telling you to do. So that's a big one for me. If you're not getting out of your chair to get out there and talk to customers and talking to people, then I have a really hard time taking any kind of advice of what to say to customers from you, if that's your mentality. So that would be the biggest one. You want to lead by example.
Absolutely. So one of the people you wouldn't follow doesn't lead by example. What are a couple other characteristics that stand out that you're like, man, I wouldn't do that thing?
Yeah, and there's always playing favorites. You find that a lot especially in the dealership world, in that dealership environment where people play favorites. And I think that's just so detrimental. It's detrimental to team building. It doesn't build your team. People start feeling left out. They anytime you start picking somebody having some type of pet or, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look on you as a manager, as an effective leader. It's not a good look for the team. It's not a good motivator for the team. That's a big no-no for me.
Absolutely. Do you have one more? Make you dig deep.
The other thing is, just not not recognizing what team building is. You have a team, and you sit there and you don't do anything with it. You don't do anything with your team, and you don't grow it. You don't nurture it. Just like a plant. If you don't do those things, it's going to die. And that's the same thing with team building. If you don't build your team, if you're not encouraging your team, you're not building them up and sharpening the sword and getting them better and taking the time to care about them and to know who their kids are, and just getting in there and being raw with them, and that's just an important thing. And there's just so many people that don't do it. I've watched teams wither and die because they don't get the team building that they need.
Well, absolutely. And a couple things to hone in on. And one is, if you're going to run a team, you have to, it does take a mental shift, right? You're no longer running 4 individuals, 5 individuals, 12 individuals. What's the collective? And I like the fact that you said on this, people that don't lead by example, you shouldn't follow them, right? That's a turnoff for most real business people. People that do lead by example, positive trait, right? So if they do what they say they'll do. Secondly, you said if they play favorites. So here's something that I want to expand on for a second. When you're talking about playing favorites, and this is something that leaders, as you're listening to this, managers, as you're listening to this, if you're a favorite that's listening to this, you need to know this. Real leadership is more about what can you do for the individual? What can you do to the team? What can you do to serve and help advance people? When you start playing favorites, you've got it twisted, because it's then what can you do for me? And because they're doing something for you, you go, I like that person, right? Yeah. And it's easy to fall into that trap. I really do think it's easy to fall into that trap, because you start to gel with someone, you start to jive with someone, you have similarities and so forth. So you have to have a real awareness of that if you're in any sort of business and leadership role. And then the third thing that you said earlier, you said, hey, recognition's huge, because that shows you care about somebody and listen. And if somebody's not recognizing them, I want to dive into that first point for just a second. When you said people don't lead by example, or people that have never done the thing that they're asking you to do, I think that is rampant on the internet right now, especially in social media. If you're looking for somebody to coach you or mentor you, kind of go back to the early part of our conversation, we've got, this came up last week, you got a ton of 20 somethings out there with 40 years experience. You go, well, how does that happen?
It reminds me of that commercial. The guy who stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. Are you a doctor? No, I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, though.
Right. I was at a Holiday Inn Express, so I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But so what are some, maybe, because you have a lot of experience, both, your military background and training, a lot of your management training and leadership training, and where you're at, and just business experience in general. Yeah. What are some things people should look for? So if I'm either moving into leadership or management, or let's say that I've been in a role for a little bit and I'm saying, man, I'm stuck, or I need to get to the next level, or I got to get off this plateau where I'm at. What are some things that people should look for, maybe if they're searching for a coach or a guru, as we sometimes will call them, a real guru, not self-proclaimed.
Right. There's a lot of those.
Yeah. What are a few traits maybe that somebody should look for to know, okay, yes, that person has done the thing that they said they're doing, and I can follow them and I can learn from them?
Well, I think that's it right there, is, vetting, right. And making sure that they've done the things that they need to have done. Looking for people who are successful in the field that you're in, and then connecting with them. A lot of people are afraid to reach out, or think that, oh, he will never talk to me. I can't tell you how many times I have actually taken a moment to reach out in my community to people who I admire, who are successful business leaders and just successful leaders, and just send a message and said, hey, I would love to pick your brain, take you to breakfast one day. If you could find some time on your calendar, I would love to pick your brain and just get together with you. Let me know your thoughts. And I have had these guys send me response. Absolutely. When would you like to meet? And because they want to teach, the successful people who have been successful want to impart their knowledge, right? It's part of the success makeup, sharing what it is that you've done to be successful. I'm always blown away by some of the places that I've been, and as successful as I've been as a top producer, consistently. I'm not talking about 1 month here or 1 month here. I'm talking about every month, month in, month out, year in, year out. And not one person has ever come up to me and said, hey, I noticed that, you've been, salesperson of the month or employee of the month several times, and employee of the year. What is it that you're doing that maybe I can do? Or is there something different that you're doing that maybe I can learn? Not one person has ever done that. The first thing you hear is, oh, he gets this because of that. They want to hate on you. They want to roll their eyes, and they want to tell you how your success is making them look bad. So to go back to what your question is, yes, vet that person, find the person that is successful in the field that you want to be successful in, and then get to know them, reach out to them. Write a letter, write an email. If it's a community person, you'd be amazed at the positive response that you'll get, because these people do want to impart their wisdom and their knowledge.
100%. I think people that are successful in general, I wholeheartedly agree with you, because I've had some conversations with people that it's mind blowing. I thought they were, light years ahead of me in this arena and so forth. And here's something that will blow your mind is oftentimes, that's how relationships will work, right? There has to be a sort of synergy and a give and take. So, hey, we get in this relationship and we start having a conversation, and what can you teach me? But likewise, that person may look at you and say, hey, I'm interested to learn XYZ from you. And so then it becomes this huge compliment, and that's how some really strong friendships and relationships are formed. And
absolutely, and I think you can tie in. Sorry, just want to add.
Shoot.
I think you can tie in this one thing, and that is quit listening to people who don't want you to win. Too often we spend time listening to people who have not done what we've done, have not accomplished what we've accomplished, don't have the level of experience that we have, and we take advice from these people. And you can call them what you want. I heard negaholics, dream stealers. There's all kinds of names for them.
Energy vampires.
Energy vampires. That's a good one. Absolutely. These are the people that are in the room and that are not applauding when you're winning, right? Quit listening to people that don't want you to win.
It's interesting. And I think as humans, we all fall into that category, right? Because a lot of people are people pleasers, and we go, well, I hope this person saw, and that they saw me do this thing, and that they're cheering for me and so forth. And the reality too, both on the winning side and the not winning side, when we're talking about people like that, or imposter syndrome, nobody is thinking about, especially when you get into leadership and management, nobody is thinking as much about you as you think they're thinking about you. That's a harsh truth, folks.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
And I do think that's valuable. Like, check references, get receipts, find out if they have done those things. And the only way you can do that is through a real relationship. I do want to ask you to at least two more questions. One here, that you brought up, because you said, hey, as a top producer, you have a multitude of accolades, Mark. If I were on the outside looking in, it's like, man, Mark is winning all the time. So what are some key things that you have done for your own personal development that you would recommend to somebody else? Hey, do this, this, and this, because it will help you be successful, regardless of what the industry may be.
Absolutely. Again, like I said, the books that you read, I try to find books that are going to give me insight to my career field, to the things that I do and that I'm interested in. Right. So I want to hone my skill. Sales, the psychology, the science of selling, those are the things that I want to get better at. Right. Because the better I get at that, the better I just become in that. And then expanding my comfort zone, doing things outside the norm. Recently I just got elected to the president of a board of directors for a nonprofit corporation here in Tucson.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm really excited about it. I've never done it before. And so I'm excited to lead in that capacity and to take it to the next level. But it's putting yourself out there to better yourself. I heard this phrase before. You probably heard it: "Fake it till you make it."
Oh yeah.
And to me, fake it till you make it. And I get it. I understand what it means, but it doesn't coincide with my belief of being transformational versus transactional, right? Because faking it is not showing up authentic or real, right?
Absolutely.
So
again,
yeah.
I'm gonna hang on a couple things, and then I'm gonna recap this, because one of the things we were talking about, what people thought and so forth. Leadership with Mike. He's a good friend of mine. Tunes into a lot of the shows. Mike Ashy. He brings up. He says, too many people don't want you to win. When we're talking about seeing people that want to see you win versus not. And then he said, and what they do think is none of your business. I
I
think we're
say that a
so
lot. I love that, Mike. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, what other people think of me is none of my business.
well.
I don't
And
care.
who was it that said? I think I heard Tom Holland on an interview, and he was talking about some other celebrity. I wish I could remember who it was right now, Mark. But he says, hey, it's one of those. If you have a problem with me, just text me or call me. And if you don't have my number, then you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
Right.
Bam, drop the
That's
mic.
good.
Right. I
Boom.
wish that was my line. It's not. It's taken from
That's
elsewhere. But
great.
so just to recap too, when we're talking about, hey, what do top producers do to develop their skills? What do top leaders, top managers do to develop their skills? And I would recommend write this down too. You said, hey, they have to read books. You have to be deliberate in your own learning. Secondly, you said, doing what's uncomfortable. Get outside your comfort zone. Like
Absolutely.
I was talking to somebody literally right before this. I was on a Zoom call, and he said to me, because we were having a conversation, he says, yeah, comfortability, like being comfortable, is a dream killer. That is the killer
Yeah.
of all dreams.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, which you didn't say, and I slipped and said it here a second ago, but you have to be a constant learner. It's you constantly, as if you're wanting to continually to move up. As humans, we're meant to grow, and so you constantly have to be learning. And then here's another little tip. And Mark, you didn't say this, but I'm going to add it for you. Like, you have to be willing, and you said it earlier, you have to be willing to teach what you learn. You get better at the position that you're in, at leadership, at management, at being a business owner, at being an entrepreneur, at being a YouTuber, at being a salesperson. The more that you can impart and teach the things that you've learned on your journey, the stronger it comes, because your neural pathways go, hey, I'm good at that. And it allows you to grow and bring somebody else up. So I think those are all very powerful things that you've shared,
Absolutely.
man.
Big time. I didn't start branding myself, like I do now until I was on social media and saw a bunch of other guys doing it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they put on a seminar in Las Vegas. This was back, I think 2017, 2018. And
Okay.
I said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go check this out, because I think what these guys are doing is breakthrough. Social media has changed the game for independent salespeople and small businesses. So I went to this event in Las Vegas, and man, I came away with a wealth of knowledge, and it just transformed my business. But if I'm not open-minded to new ideas and new things and learning all the time, you're not going to evolve. And that's,
Absolutely.
you gotta be involved. They say that as we get older, we're supposed to get wiser, right? But
I've heard that.
I don't think it's just because of the age. I think you have to do stuff along the way, and to acquire the knowledge.
Uh, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I've heard that too, that all wisdom is, and anybody, you can take this to the bank. All wisdom is applied knowledge. If you
Yep.
don't know, you can't apply it, right? And it's not always winning. And that leads me to my last question. Can you think of a time, I always kind of drag these to the end, that you did have a miss, that you failed at something and you're like, man, I totally fumbled this. And then what did you learn from it, and how did you react to it? What's something that you could, and this is not just if you don't want to answer the question, you don't have to, but I think it's one of those things that's valuable, because a lot of people could be watching or listening to the show or connecting with you and go, man, Mark's winning all the time. And it's like, yeah, but behind the scenes, we all take those hits. So what's something that you could share, and what did you learn from something that you missed on, Mark?
You know, man, I think your entire life is it's you fail your way to success. There's so many failures. I haven't always been a winner. I had to learn how to win, and if you don't know what losing is, you can't win. You need to understand that right now. You need to know what losing is first before you can win, because you can't apply the knowledge or know what it takes to get to something unless you know what the boundaries are, what the borders are. If you want peace and happiness, then you need to understand what chaos and sadness is, so that you can to know the difference. So
Sure.
I would say, there's been numerous, relationships, jobs, that always, that didn't always pan out, that didn't work. And I had to learn from all those things. And it is what has made me the person that I am today. I am a composite of all of those things, all of my failures, all of my wins. That is who I am today. So I don't know if I can name one specific. There's so many, because life is a series of events.
Sure. Well, and I think two things I just picked up on you, or picked up on from you right
Yeah.
now, is one, it doesn't matter if it's a temporary failure or not, right? The only time failure becomes permanent is when we dwell on it and then we go, well, I'm going to do something different, or I'm not going to do that. And so one thing I heard, or one thing I picked out of that, is the fact that you keep going, right?
Well, it doesn't define you.
Yeah. And
It
well,
doesn't
and then the
define you.
second thing,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, the second thing that I picked up on is, and I think it's interesting you framed it this way. You said life is a series of events, right? So how do you frame those events? What's a win? What's a loss? What can I learn from this? What should I not do again? What should I, it's very easy. And I'll frame it for anybody listening just like this. We are so trained to look at things, and I asked the question. So it is what it is, right? I asked the question. I said, what's a miss, or what's a failure you've had? We're so conditioned to look at stuff as successes and failures. Well, let's use car
Yeah.
sales as an example. If your goal is to sell 20 or 50 cars, right? Whatever that number is, and you fall short of that, let's say, oh, I sold 15 instead of 20. Well, you still succeeded in selling 15. So find that process and duplicate it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. What did I do in those 15? You look at those 15, and what did I do right? What did I do wrong? You got to look back and reassess and reanalyze, but just because I didn't hit that goal, that doesn't make me a failure. It just means that I didn't hit that goal. And as long as I can say I didn't half-ass it, right? That whatever it was, that I gave it my all, regardless of what the outcome is. And that is the key. You have to understand, if you can say that you gave it your all, it doesn't matter what the outcome is, because you won't have the regret, or that lingering question is of what would have happened if I gave it my all.
What
right?
would happen if
Because
I did
that's
this?
what
Yeah.
keeps you up at night, is asking, what would have happened if I really went for it, if I really gave it my all.
That's a good message.
At least this
So-
way, if you give it your all, it didn't work, or it did work.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely great. And I mean, I've been there too, where it's like, man, I should have done this, or I should have done that. And that's one of the biggest killers, is just then questioning yourself. So real quick, for anybody who is tuned in, again, you can connect with Mark on LinkedIn /n/Mark Weiss, your luxury car guy. You can also email him there at Mark Weiss Guy. So that's MarkWeissGuy@gmail.com. Connect with him there. Mark, believe it or not, we're at the better part of an hour, man. Like having a conversation with you is you're super easy to talk to and have shared a lot of insight and wisdom. Any final thoughts to take us out this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds superficial, but successful people don't look unsuccessful. I see I was just having this conversation with my wife last night because we were at a sports bar and we were watching the basketball game. Okay. And I'm watching North Carolina with Hubert Davis as the head coach, and Hubert's got, the Carolina blue jacket and, the tie, and the assistants have jackets and ties. And then the other coaches on the other team, the opposing team, they have quarter zip athletic sweatpants, and they just look a lot casual. And I thought, what's happened? What has happened to the look of coaches on the sidelines, where guys used to show up in like the Pat Rileys, used to show up all dapper. You don't see that anymore. And I just think, it's just something. It's just a little something. I don't want to get too carried away with it, but you don't have to wear a jacket and a tie. I mean, you can be neat and pressed and just look good. But I just think, successful people don't look unsuccessful. Take some time, prepare yourself. If you're going to walk out the door and represent yourself and your family for the day, then you should take pride in that. And
absolutely.
And, look successful.
It's interesting you share that, and I think that's a really good share to take us out. I tell my daughter that all the time. I have my daughter is 11 years old, and even because we do partial homeschooling, and I'm like, look, you can't do that from your bed with the laptop on the bed. You got to get up, make yourself up, do your things, get focused, get ready for work, get ready to show up. And I think that's very, very powerful, Mark, that it's, that ties right in.
Thanks. I didn't want it to sound shallow at all and make it, but I see it a lot more these days, especially with younger people coming into the industry, into sales. There's just kind of a mentality that, I don't have to really focus on that. But I think they're wrong. I think you do.
No, I think it's valuable. I think that to put it a different way, there's power in presentation, right?
Absolutely.
It is in all
we're visual.
Yeah. No matter what, we're visual. We start to be. So thank you very much for joining me today, Mark. I really appreciate you and for sharing everything that you've shared.
I am so grateful that you reached out, and thank you so much. It was really a pleasure and an honor. So thank you.
Absolutely. If you would just, you want to hang out for a moment behind the scenes, and I'll go ahead and take us out.
Sounds good.
All right. And that, my friends, is going to bring us to a close for another Leadership Toolkit. Thank you so much. I value your time. I hope you gained some value from this episode. Make sure you connect with Mark. He's absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, leadership management, sales experience, self-marketing, self-branding. He brought that up. That's how he and I even came to be connected. He's absolutely phenomenal. So I would encourage you, reach out to Mark. He's, as I mentioned, he's at Mark Weiss, MarkWeiss, your luxury car guy. That's on LinkedIn. You can connect with him there. And I appreciate you very much, all of my Leadership Toolkit audience. I value your time. I hope you gained a lot from this episode. And we do this again every Wednesday, 12:05 Mountain Time. Until I see you next week, make sure that you continue to be great. We'll talk to you soon, everybody.